In a quiet village nestled deep in the heart of an ancient forest, two brothers were born on a stormy night. Ethan and Elias were twins, identical in appearance, but opposite in nature. Ethan, the elder by mere minutes, was gentle, reserved, and thoughtful. Elias, on the other hand, was wild, impulsive, and mischievous. Despite their differences, the bond they shared was inseparable. They were always together, never more than a few feet apart. It was said that even their cries as babies harmonized in eerie unison, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. As children, strange things began to happen around them. Their toys would move on their own, shadows in the shape of small hands would dance across the walls, and whispers echoed through their bedroom at night. At first, their parents dismissed it as overactive imaginations, the figments of playful children. But soon, the incidents grew darker, more terrifying. One night, their mother awoke to the sound of soft giggles echoing from the twins' room. She tiptoed down the hallway, pushing open the door. There, in the dim moonlight, she saw something that froze her blood. The twins were sitting upright in bed, their faces devoid of emotion, staring at a figure in the corner. It was a dark, indistinct shape, its features twisted and blurred as though it didn't belong to this world. The figure seemed to whisper something to the boys, and they responded in unison, their voices cold and monotone. Their mother screamed, but the figure vanished before her eyes, leaving the room colder than a winter's night. From that moment on, she knew something was terribly wrong with the twins. They weren't just connected by birth, they were bound by something far more sinister. As the years passed, the boys grew, and so did the strange occurrences. Ethan began to withdraw from others, his eyes often clouded with a distant look, as though he could see things no one else could. Elias, however, seemed to thrive on the chaos. He would taunt their mother with cryptic comments, claiming he could hear someone calling his name in the forest or see strange figures lurking behind trees. The breaking point came when they were 12. One afternoon, while playing near the river that ran behind their house, Elias dared Ethan to swim to the deepest part. Ethan, always wary of his brother's reckless games, refused. But Elias, with a grin that sent a chill down Ethan's spine, waded into the water anyway. He swam farther and farther, his head barely visible above the murky surface. And then, he disappeared. Ethan screamed for help, but no one came in time. By the time their father arrived, Elias was gone, pulled under by the current. His body was never found. After that day, Ethan changed. He became even more withdrawn, haunted by the memory of his twin. But what troubled him most was the nagging feeling that Elias wasn't really gone. He could still feel his brother's presence, a shadow that clung to him wherever he went. On the night of their 18th birthday, Ethan woke to the sound of heavy breathing beside him. He opened his eyes, and there, standing at the foot of his bed, was Elias. Soaking wet, his skin pale and bloated, Elias stared at him with dead, glassy eyes. "You left me," Elias whispered, his voice like a rasping wind. "You let me drown." Ethan screamed, but when he blinked, Elias was gone. For weeks, the visions continued. Elias would appear at random, sometimes in reflections, sometimes standing at the end of dark hallways, always watching, always accusing. Ethan tried to move on with his life, but no matter where he went, Elias followed. At first it was subtle, objects would move around the house, lights would flicker, and doors would slam shut without explanation. But soon, it became violent. Ethan would wake up with bruises on his arms, as though someone had been gripping him tightly. Sharp whispers filled his ears, urging him to do things, dark things. One evening, while driving down a lonely road late at night, Ethan saw a figure standing in the middle of the street. It was Elias, drenched and dripping, his face twisted in a cruel smile. Panicked, Ethan swerved to avoid him, but the car skidded off the road, crashing into a tree. Miraculously, Ethan survived the wreck with only minor injuries. But Elias wasn't done. Every time Ethan escaped an accident, Elias would come back angrier, more determined. One day, while Ethan was walking near the river where Elias had drowned, he heard the familiar whisper behind him. "Come to the water." Against his will, Ethan felt his legs move, dragging him toward the riverbank. He tried to fight it, but the force pulling him was too strong. As he reached the edge of the river, he saw Elias's pale hand reach out from the water, beckoning him closer. "Join me, brother." Terror gripped Ethan, and he stumbled backward, running for his life. But no matter how far he ran, Elias always found him. The haunting became relentless. At night, Ethan would hear the sound of dripping water, and when he looked around, his walls and floor would be soaked, though no water source was nearby. Elias's voice would echo through his dreams, whispering dark secrets, taunting him with memories of their childhood. Ethan sought help from priests, shamans, and anyone who would listen, but nothing worked. Every exorcism, every ritual, seemed to only make Elias stronger. It was as if the bond between the twins had been cursed from birth, a tether that neither death nor time could sever. Years passed, and Ethan's once promising life crumbled. He lost his job, his friends, and eventually, his sanity. He was a shell of the person he used to be, living in constant fear of the next time Elias would appear. One stormy night, as lightning cracked across the sky, Ethan stood by the riverbank, the place where it had all begun. He looked down at the water, his reflection distorted by the raindrops, but there was someone else there too. Elias, standing beside him, grinning. "It's time," Elias said softly. "No," Ethan whispered, backing away. But Elias wouldn't let him go. The wind howled, and the rain beat down harder, but all Ethan could hear was the sound of Elias's voice in his head, louder and louder, urging him to join him in the water. His body moved on its own, inching closer to the edge. And then, with one final push, Ethan fell into the river. The water was cold, freezing, and it wrapped around him like 1,000 icy hands. He thrashed, trying to fight, but something held him down. He could see Elias's face, inches from his, smiling. "You can't escape me, brother. We're bound together. Forever." The world faded, and everything went black. In the village, people still talk about the twins, the cursed brothers who could never be separated, not even by death. Some say that if you walk by the river on a stormy night, you can still hear the sound of two voices, laughing softly, as if sharing a secret only they know.